Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Welcome aboard in the house, Breach MCP. Welcome aboard, AVQ in the house. Welcome aboard, Eric Hayes in the house. How is everybody doing? It's Friday. Seems like so far people are not quite here yet, even as we show quite a bit of numbers on the different many channels, but that's fine. We're going to have a good show for you today. What I want to do is I want to start with I have a whole lot of videos from Netroots, and they take quite a bit of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it right away. We're going to start with Christopher Pearson, former Senator Christopher Pearson from the state senator from Vermont, talking about the national vote, national popular vote. So let's start that right away. And then in between, I'll have a few things that I need to talk about as well. So let's get busy. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Today, I have the honor of speaking to Christopher Pearson of the National Popular Vote. Before we get started, Christian, thank you so kindly for having
from
appearing.
Nice to see you.
Look, tell me a little bit about you first of all. I know you have a little bit of interesting positions that you've had in Vermont. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I've served in my legislature. I did 8 years in the Vermont House and then 6 years in the Vermont Senate, which was really cool.
Let me break you. Why don't you just come out and say, I was a senator in Vermont and I was a congressperson in Vermont, I was a representative in Vermont. I mean, it's almost like you're like, well, you know, I served in the Senate.
I mean, those people need to get over themselves.
It just shows a lot about who the brother is. Anyway, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, so fascinating experience. My state rep got elected mayor, and I got appointed to office by the governor in 2006. I'm not sure I ever would have run, but getting appointed to office is a good way to go.
And you go.
And then I ran and won.
Oh, so you did run?
Yeah, I did run.
Okay.
But I started that way. And I think that is probably the only way I would have gotten there, because being a candidate, I'm more interested in working on issues and organizing, and I come out of a grassroots kind of background. So.
Okay, well that's great. Well, you're now working with the National Popular Vote. It is one of those programs that I completely love. And the reason why is you found it's not a way around the Constitution. You're simply following the Constitution to get the right results of an election.
That's right. So Constitution gives states total power over their own electors. So we're fixing the Electoral College. People say, "Oh, are you eliminating the Electoral College?" No, we're working with states to change the way it works so that you add up all the votes in the country, get the most votes, you're guaranteed to win. And that would be a big change. We can do it through state power. We've already passed 18 states. We need to reach a threshold of states that together have a majority of the electors, 270 electoral votes. We're up to 209. So we got 61 states with 61 to go. This is something 2 out of 3 voters like. This is not actually a partisan issue on the street. And we're banging away at the states, and we've been doing this since 2006. And we're hopeful we can get it done by 2028.
So how many votes are your way?
61.
Electoral votes, 61 electoral votes.
And we would make every vote equal, and we would guarantee you get the most votes who win the election.
And that's all it means, real democracy. That's all it really means. Now, as you're working this throughout the different states, are you finding it difficult within red states who would actually believe the power that and the truth of the matter is they have more power than their population dictates?
We are finding it to be a partisan issue, and it's gotten more so after the 2020 Stop the Steal and that kind of movement, unfortunately. So when I testify in front of the Nevada Elections Committee, a few people coming after me opposing the bill, one of those guys was indicted as a fake elector, right? So our opponents are this stuff,
the ones who don't even believe in democracy.
That's right. Yeah. And we're going, hey, every vote should be equal. When you get the most votes, you should win the election. And when you are one of the 80% of Americans that live in flyover country, in deep red states or deep blue states, we think your vote should matter too. We think the candidates should come, ask you what's important, and court your vote. Right now, that's happening in about 8 states. It ought to happen in all 50 states. That's ridiculous, right? So these are it's pretty basic, but it is hard, and unfortunately, it has taken on more of a partisan bent lately. Although, actually, about half the Republican voters like this, but the far right is very worked up about it.
Well, who cares, right? I mean, no, I don't mean who cares about the right. I mean, I say who cares about worked out. When you have the principled position, it's hard for you to feel any sort of guilt for somebody who's saying, please continue to let us do what's wrong. Continue to let us do what's wrong.
And they don't have the numbers, right? 2 out of 3 voters likes this. But they are effective at making a lot of noise, and that can be intimidating to legislators that are looking at hundreds of issues.
Right.
I come along and say, let's talk about the Electoral College, how bad it is for our country, and they're sort of saying, well, I got to deal with schools and healthcare and any number of crises, right?
It's funny, a lot of them never even knew for quite a while what the Electoral College was. And they only know about it now because they're feeling that advantage may be going on. So they're instructing their people about it. It's amazing.
But twice in our lifetime, we've elected the second place candidate because of the way the Electoral College works.
It is sad.
Yeah.
We have a Supreme Court that is supreme because I think ultimately 4 justices, 5?
5, yep.
5 justices were elected by a president who garnered the minority of the votes.
Right. Yeah, so the consequences to this structural issue that we're addressing through national popular vote are enormous. You look at voter participation. Voter turnout is 10 to 12% higher in the battleground states than the rest of the country. Well, the rest of the country is like 40 states. Right? So,
amazing.
So when you think about the impact down ballot, huge impact there. Jamie Raskin, who's now a member of Congress, he was the sponsor of the very first national popular vote bill to come into law right here in Maryland, 2007. He says, if you go by national popular vote, you reawaken politics in every part of the country. And I think that's vital. I think that's timely.
Especially now.
We have a faith in the process, a crisis in faith in our democratic process, and this would go a long way to restoring.
Now, how do we get there?
We get there by passing this in another 5, 6, 7 states, and we're cranking away. We're still very active this year, 2024, in Michigan. Is realistically the only state that we could still get. We just passed it in Maine in April. A year ago, we passed it in Minnesota. We're exploring a dozen states. We've been active in all states at one point or another, but we're targeting effectively about a dozen states, and we need the election to go well. We need voters to ask candidates, hey, do you support one person, one vote?
Right.
And national popular vote? And then we look for opportunities, and we have, as you've said, I like that, we have a winning argument. We should all be treated equally, and when you get the most votes, you should win the election.
That is it.
It's not controversial.
Not at all.
So we just keep pounding away. We have broad coalition supporting us, and 2 out of 3 voters, and this is steeped in the Constitution.
Well, look, Mr. Pierce, thank you so kindly for having been.
Taking a few minutes.
Absolutely.
Nice
I think it's important that we have people out there doing this work, and it's great that we have a former state senator, a former legislator who is here with us to discuss this. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, man.
All right, folks. I hope you like that. That was Pearson from Vermont. Now, the next person is somebody that's dear to my heart. I met her early on. Well, we were the initial founders of Coffee Party USA. She was the founder. I came right after and became a part of the founding membership. So here we go, and then we'll take it on the other side. Now, I want to make one statement. I see people talking about price. What Kamala Harris is talking about. It's amazing how people get concerned about price controls, right? When the private sector bilks you, not because of their price increases, but because they have pricing power, you don't see a problem with that. But if the government says, stop it, you see a problem with that. I mean, I've never seen such self-defeatism. But anyhow, let's go to the next subject. Annabelle, hey folks, let me tell you who this woman is, okay? Annabel Annabel Park was the founder of Coffee Party USA. Welcome, Annabelle. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. This is really energizing. I mean, I'm so glad I'm here instead of like doom scrolling and freaking out.
Yeah, well, I want to tell a story about you. Okay, and here's a story that she somehow didn't recall that I said this years ago. Years ago. I don't know. I thought you had perfect memory, my
No,
friend.
I'm not.
Okay, but anyhow, back in the yay days during Obamacare debate in 2008, from the time I came to the country, I was one of those radical lefties, always a radical lefty. Okay, that's who I am. But during the Obamacare debate and during all the wars that was going on in the country, people against people, I remember I think I was on YouTube, and there's this snowy video with Annabel Park out there talking about us getting along and talking about civility and all of that kind of stuff. And there was just something in the way she said it that actually touched me. And I immediately went ahead and joined the organization called Coffee Party that you were the founder of. And, I've related this story. I think it's even in one of my books here that where I spoke about making that change of civility and really trying to engage all people on terms that make them want to trust you, make them want to talk to you. And I have to say, Annabelle, I've been very successful in using that technique and garner a whole lot of people. So, first of all, in front of everybody, I'll say, well, thank you for congratulating me, my dear. But what I'm saying, I take a different tack than you take. You're a lot more soft-spoken than I am. I'm aggressive, but in as much as I'm aggressive, people know that it comes from a position of love, a position of caring, a position from not insulting the person as an individual, but actually working. So tell us a little bit about yourself to the audience. Introduce yourself to the audience here.
Well, I am. Oh, okay, thank you. I'm Korean American. I was born in Korea. And one of the reasons why I am really dedicated to activism and participation is because I grew up first 10 years of my life in Korea when Korea was not a democracy, it was a military dictatorship. And so I know what it's like firsthand to not have a democracy and to know that people would die for democracy. Mm-hmm. And so now here we are. I feel like we are in a democracy that is slowly not becoming a democracy anymore. Right. And especially this year, I feel like it really is in peril, with this election coming up, where we could stand to lose everything that people have worked towards from the founding. And so, my story is that I basically have devoted my entire life to figuring out how I can contribute to America becoming an even greater, democracy than it is. And I've done different things as a result. I've done filmmaking. I accidentally started a movement called the Coffee Party. I've done campaign work. I've done community organizing. I've done academic stuff. I've done all kinds of things because I was trying to figure out how to improve our democracy. Yeah.
Let me just break in here. I think it's important for people to know both you and I were born somewhere else. Yeah. You were born in South Korea. I was born in Panama. Mm-hmm. I think many a times, and this is not an attempt to offend anybody, but a lot of those of us who've moved here, we have a better appreciation of what could potentially be lost. And in so doing, I will tell my American brothers and my born American brothers and sisters, you want to listen to what a lot of those of us who have lived through other types of governments are talking about. Your comments.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you bring that up because it's not just that we saw what it means to not have democracy, But we also I went through a naturalization ceremony where I really had to swear, just like in the military, people swear to uphold the Constitution.
Right.
And that actually really transformed me.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, like I didn't really understand what it really meant to suddenly become an American. But after that, I'm like, you know what? This really is extremely important to my identity.
Right.
To be somebody dedicated to and loyal to this country. And so, yeah, I'm in a way, I'm kind of a warrior because I really want to fight for this country and I do not take it for granted at all. And I do think you're right. Like people can take it for granted because that's all they have known until we lose it. Yeah.
You know, Annabelle, there's one other thing that we share in common. We had to really learn about this country to be naturalized American citizens because we had to prove that we knew how it worked, that we knew its beginning, that knew that. And unfortunately, in the way the school systems are today, there's so much that is left behind. And I think many lose. They lose because they didn't go through that process. I mean, I think it's important. So what you are here with 2 programs. I mean, like you said, you are always doing something. Tell us a little bit about your projects.
Yeah, like this year I have 2 projects here. One is called Vital Voters. And I've been working on creating a database of immigrant communities and voters in swing states. And I'm hoping to get campaigns and organizations to do in-language outreach to communities in their district. And to also to have really subtle messages that really fit that community. And that all that requires old-fashioned community organizing, getting to know the community, getting to know the leaders in the community, training volunteers, and working together with them to figure out like what is in their interest instead of assuming that we know. And to give you an example, I mean, and yeah, a lot of people are doing Latino, Asian outreach. Often that outreach is not effective because they don't distinguish between Cubans and people from El Salvador or China, from Vietnam. They're very different communities. And so in order to do it effectively, we have to get to know the communities. We have to work with the people. The Koreans in Northern Virginia are different from Koreans in New Jersey, you know, in that, you know, there are different issues. And so I just want everyone to know the potential because we have a million new naturalized citizens every year. Many of them are in swing states.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in Texas in particular, right? And so if we even just focus on Texas, imagine if we flip Texas by targeting immigrant voters. That's my dream. That's my dream. That's 40 electoral college votes.
Right.
Okay? It also means we don't have to work as hard to get all these other states. 40 electoral college votes. If we just focus on immigrants in Texas. And we can do it. We can absolutely do it. I also grew up in Texas. And so that's the kind of thing that, you know, to me is incredible strategy. Like, we've got to do this. We've got to expand the base. We can't just go after registered Democrats who vote every election. We have to expand the base, grow the party.
That is, you know, what I'm talking about. You're talking about expanding the base with bringing in the immigrants. I sometimes I think I'm even more, I don't want to say dreaming, because if you take a look at our chat here, about half the, let me get it, about a good 20-30% currently in this chat are conservative. Some of them are actually MAGA, but they're here every day.
Wow. Amazing.
And they're not trolls. They're just debating.
Right. So what are they looking for?
I am looking to...
No, them. What are they looking for?
I think they've developed a trust in what we do. And actually, when I say we, I'm not just talking me. I'm talking about what we do. Because again, talking about being able to talk to these guys, when I put some of that credit on you, I'm saying that from the depths of the heart, and that there are some of the folks that I find in here I would otherwise have, they can't hear me. there are some of the folks in here that I would otherwise have found pretty obnoxious, right? That I understand where the concept is coming from now, and it's so important. And again, like I said, we learned this from the different programs that we developed, being a part of that coffee party movement that we did, and again, it served its purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you really believe in democracy, you have to respect intelligence of everyone, and you have to believe in deliberation and dialogue. Because if you don't have dialogue, if we can't have dialogue, it's like trying to be in a marriage when you don't talk to the partner. We're supposed to be governing together. Yes. We have to talk to each other. And so I am a big believer in discussion and debate. Doesn't mean we're going to agree. That's not the point. The point is being able to have that dialogue. Exactly. And respect each other. And that's not happening. And it kills me. I feel destroyed by it, really. Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is we're all, now that's what I forgot. Guys, I forgot every time. Forgive me about the audio. We have, the batteries are charging on the other ones. But we have to engage. And the good thing that I like is that no matter what happened, you remain engaged, I remain engaged, and ultimately the results is what's matter. We both, our hearts are in the same place. It's very important. Anyway, give me a closer, Annabel.
Yeah, I would just like to say that, we all need to really make sacrifices this year to save our country and our democracy, because so much is on the line. It really is an all hands on deck. So all the things that you want to do for yourself, for your family, none of these things are going to happen if we lose our country. So it really is an all hands on deck situation. So take time off, participate, do everything that we can. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.
Annabel Park, founder of Coffee Party. Look, thank you so kindly for having spend some time and talk to me and talk a little bit about your projects. That's okay. Really good. I am going to come and get me an apple or something later on. I saw you. I see you at a party. Yeah. Well, I got so much darn video processing. Are you going to the one that I think there's one, I don't remember who's having it at the hotel down the road here?
I'm going to the one at the Kimpton Hotel.
I think that's it. Who's having that one?
Democracy Partners.
Okay. Well, I may have to go, but I don't know. I have a lot of work to do, so I'll see. I'm tired. Anyway, thank you very much for being out here. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news. Welcome to another edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host here from Netroots Nation. Of course, we meet some very interesting people that are making a change to our politics. And today we are lucky to have Karin Tamerius of Smart Politics and David Campt of the Dialogue Company. How you doing, Miss Tamerius?
I'm great, thank you.
And how are you doing, Senor David?
Very, very nice, very nice. I'm glad to be here.
Well, David, it's interesting because you and I spoke before, and you speak to a whole lot of people, and you wonder sometimes, I know that person, now I remember what it's all about. Anyway, you are the founder of a company called the Dialogue Company. Why did you think you needed to do that?
Because I know that so many people can't talk well to people they want to collaborate with. So in the workplace, they can't talk well. Certainly can't talk well in the workplace about DEI issues. But here, it's a political season. People, especially white progressives, talk really poorly to people in their circle about racism and about other things. Mm-hmm. So I, in order to do my part to change this country and this world, I wanted to manifest what I know about persuasion so that people can collaborate more, especially white progressives.
Now, you have a company called Smart Politics. Yes. First of all, you work a lot with David Campt. Both of you work together.
I do.
First of all, what do you do at Smart Politics, and why did you find it advantageous to work with David?
Yeah, so Smart Politics was founded in 2017. It's a nonprofit organization. And what I do is I teach progressives how to communicate more persuasively with people who disagree with us. And a lot of times that means having conversations about racism and race. And so David and I have particularly collaborated around that issue.
Now, you just mentioned something that, let me kind of expand on it. You said, generally, if you're talking about issues between progressives and others, a lot of times the race issue comes up. Would you consider that the major issue, though, or would you consider that just one of the several issues that, you have to get the gradations? What do you think?
It comes up a lot, but it is absolutely not the only issue that comes up.
Do you think it is the major issue, or do you? Because I want to hear your opinion before I say what I think.
I think it is the primary issue that progressives run into trouble talking about. Yeah, but it's not the only issue that they run into trouble with.
Okay, so since you work with David, I want to ask the question this way to David. Do you think the reason why many progressives may have issues with, let's say, and I don't want this to be a racial discussion, because this is much more, in my opinion, than race, what both of you are doing. But do you think it has something to do that just people are people? In other words, let me tell you, in my personal dealings with people, I don't find that conservatives are any less racist than progressives. The only difference I've seen, and y'all can correct me, both of you can, the only difference I think I've seen is that progressives intrinsically want to do something about it, even if they themselves have that cancer, they want to do something about it, while conservatives just throw their hands up, said to hell with it. That's life. Your thoughts?
My analysis is that conservatives, progressives might not be different in how much they're racist, but you're right that they're different in how much they care about racism. The way I think about it is that the two fundamental questions are, how much does bias and racism exist now? Mm-hmm. Conservatives tend to say very little. Progressives tend to say a lot. Mm-hmm. And what's how much does our historical racism affect us now? Conservatives say very little. Progressives say a lot. And they differ on those questions, but they have a tough time talking about that. But then, of course, the third question is, if there's any impact, should anybody do anything about it? And progressives say yes, conservatives say no. So I don't think the issue is who's more or less racist, but I think it's more about the worldview about racism that divides people and that they cannot talk about well. And because they can't talk about it well, it becomes one of many other issues that lights up the Thanksgiving dinner table, because people accuse each other of bad faith, accuse each other of being evil, and they use conversational practices that don't help enhance things, and that's what we work on.
And that is great. And let me just say something, Karin. I agree with just about everything that David just said, but it's so interesting to me from my point of view, the race aspect of all our problems is really so, and I want it to come out right. It is prevalent, but it should be minuscule.
I don't know that I'd say it should be minuscule, mm-hmm. but it shouldn't be any bigger than our challenge in talking about mm-hmm. other things.
I think I used the wrong word, because what I want to say is that it is kind of silly on our part that it plays such an important role when there are so many other things that affects us. Like let's put it this way: you're a white woman, I'm a black guy. Let's say you just hate me because of the color of my skin, right? That doesn't go, except for power, as far as being able to control my well-being. Other than that's a big thing, but in just the prejudice portion about it, it doesn't matter. But me trying to take away your right as a woman to do what you want with your body, something that has a lasting effect, it's a powerful thing. Yet, we would let that racial discussion overshadow that.
Potentially, but I think one of the things you have to keep in mind in all of these conversations is the role that trauma plays and the way that gets kind of repeated in our conversations. Mm-hmm. So yes, we may be in any given situation dealing with one power dynamic. Mm-hmm. The way it feels because of the history of trauma mm-hmm. may be very different from the absolute objective analysis.
Right.
She says that as she's a psychiatrist.
Right.
Like she calls herself political psychiatrist.
You know what?
She knows what she's talking about.
I was just about to get into trouble with her being a psychologist because my daughter is I have to say a doctor because she finished medical school, but she's not going to be practicing. But she teaches me quite a bit in analyzing these things, and we go back and forth as far as the psychology is concerned. And I guess I may have to develop more empathy for that thing that you just called trauma. And because I guess being a tough-headed SOB, I mean, but I'm serious, right? I have issues about trauma. Is trauma a crutch or whatever? So I think maybe I have to learn to accept that for some people's biology, trauma is an issue.
Yeah. I mean, no matter who you are as a human being, you're carrying some kind of emotional baggage with you, and it's going to show up in political conversations.
Right.
And we cannot be completely rational in these conversations, even if we want to. It's impossible.
Okay. I really have to learn that you can, so you're saying that you can't supersede trauma, or that you can't supersede trauma, or that you have to learn how to supersede trauma?
Well, we have to learn to work with our trauma and accept it, and accept that other people are going to always interact with us in ways that reflect their life experience, and they are not going to see the world necessarily the way we see the world, and yet we have to work together. So we have to learn how to talk with one another despite those differing experiences.
I guess that is why things like, I'm an engineer, things like science don't always work, because you have, it's not just A plus 1 plus 2 equals 3, or it's not the Pythagorean theorem or something like that. You have to go, well, I think deep inside I get it. I guess sometimes in certain places I don't want to get it.
Yeah. It's challenging, and it is hard work.
Yeah.
And righteous indignation often feels better than the hard work.
I think that's a phrase, David, that I want to start using. Say it again. Say it. Righteous indignation
is more fun than hard work.
Oh, wow. I really like that. You need to put that on a bumper sticker.
How about outrage is a drug? Like outrage.
Ooh, that's good.
I mean,
that one. You say hers was short. I mean, hers was long, and you just came and gave the counter punch. Pow, pow.
Right. No, it is. I mean, that came from one of my workshops on the White Ally Toolkit. I've done a lot of work with helping progressive people who think racism is a problem. Again, talk to white folks, who talk to people in their family or circle who don't think racism is a problem. White folks are split 50-50 on that question.
Right.
Just not unlike white folks are split 50-50 on Mr. Trump, over 58%.
Right.
So that's why white folks have the common experience of I can't talk to my family members or my friends, etc., which people of color don't have that because of the different voting patterns and different issues. They don't have the problem about racism because black folks are 80-20 on racism is a problem. So part of what we have to do is to help people have these better conversations. And one of my workshop recently was like, when people say racist stuff, I just blast them because outrage is a drug. Right? And it's a dysfunctional response, and it actually hardens opinions instead of softening them, which you could argue is the job of progressive white people, is to soften people in their circle, not to make them more entrenched around their view. But to do that, you got to come from a place of compassion, and people don't want to do that because outrage feels better.
No, I have adapted a way of being over the last several years to preach and live civility, and also to try to have people develop trust in me and in me as a person that's not going to, even look. I'll be frank. I'm to the point where doing a show, somebody calls in, they call me all kind of N-words, and my response is, "Are you having a bad day?" Okay.
That's hilarious.
But it really comes from within now when I'm saying, or you having a bad day, because the words have absolutely no impact on me because I know who I am. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why I asked you about the trauma. I have the trauma of the pigment that I have living in America. Is it that I have superseded that trauma? Or what do you think that is, and maybe why I'm a bit less empathetic with the race issue? So maybe you can explain that to me.
Well, as a person trained as a psychiatrist, I think of it through the lens of exposure therapy. Mm-hmm. So how do we treat PTSD in a patient? We do it with exposure therapy, where you subject yourself a little bit to environments in which you have to confront things that make you very uncomfortable, may trigger past trauma, may really be difficult for you, but your body naturally acclimates over time if you stay with it. And so eventually you get to a place where it just doesn't land anymore.
So that is like a vaccine.
A little bit.
You almost sounded like a vaccine. But
right.
Wow, that is amazing. I like that. So anyway, moving on. So David, what is your goal? What are the goals with you working together with Karin? What do you expect to accomplish in our body politic? Because the truth of the matter is, our body politic is in deep caca right now.
Yes.
So what is your, and this is pretty much how I'd like to end it. Where do you go from the policy, the type of methodologies you're using? And I'm going to ask the same question to Karin.
My goal is to be part of an effort, maybe catalyze it, where tens of thousands of people, especially in the swing states, but not only there, where tens of thousands of people, especially white folks, are talking to people in their circle about the election, but using better ways of talking, using compassion-based strategies. Because what we know is that these strategies, if I use compassion-based strategies with people I disagree with, I feel better about myself. I feel better about them. And overall, if I use those strategies, even if they don't, sometimes they change their mind, but sometimes they just decide that if they're voting the other way, they just decide not to vote, because part of their voting behavior is driven because of their hatred of liberals. And so if I create a positive encounter, they feel less resentment, and some of those people will vote differently or not vote. And so that's my goal.
I love that. Believe it or not, some of that I wrote in How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relative Friends and Neighbors. So I'm 100% with you with that. And sorry for stepping
right on, brother.
All right. Your thoughts?
It's very much aligned with David's thoughts. What I really want to see is people talking to their friends, family members, co-workers, neighbors, about what really matters to them in this election, and having conversations across lines of difference. Like, talk with the people who you tend to disagree with, rather than spending all your time, complaining with the people you already agree with. One thing I noticed that people really underestimate is how much of an impact they can actually have on other people's views. Once you earn someone's trust, once they believe that you're willing to listen to them and take them seriously, you can have a major impact on the way they vote. And so the place to start is with conversations around you rather than trying to influence things far away.
Right. There's a name for this. It's called relational deep canvassing. You'll hear about relational organizing from people like this conference who talk about, get people you know to vote. And you'll also hear about deep canvassing, where people send people out to have long conversations at the door to try to change people's minds. What we're talking about is combining those in something called relational deep canvassing, where you mobilize to talk to people already in your circle, but to use best practices in trying to get the ones who are left-leaning to vote, who might not want to vote, and the people who in the center who might vote but might vote the other way, to talk to them. That's the purpose of that.
Karin, thank you so kindly for enlightening us. That was
Yeah.
excellent. And David, thank you so kindly once again for being on Politics Done Right. I mean, I think this has been an enlightening conversation. And I think I've learned, I think there's so much that we can go out there and do to make a better world. Thank you guys so kindly.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. Today I'm honored to speak with Dayvon Love.
That's
Did I
right.
get it
You
right?
got it. You
Okay,
got it.
anyhow, and you were with the
Leaders
organization.
of a Beautiful Struggle.
And you know, we got into talking a little bit before, and I think the lady that works with you, she sort of impressed on me that you guys are doing some very important work.
That's right.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing?
So we're a grassroots think tank, revolutionary Pan-African nationalists in our perspective, and that's important because the issues that we work on, particularly around like criminal justice issues, so pushing back against mandatory minimums and sentence enhancements, also advocating for investment in community-based violence prevention. You know, so
Let me interrupt a second, because when you use the word Pan-African,
That's
right?
right.
To some people it may mean something, but we want it to be known exactly, you know, not for folks to stereotype what it means.
That's right.
So why don't you explain what you mean by Pan-African?
and I appreciate that question because it's actually central to our work. You know, we see, when we talk about Pan-Africanism, the importance of Black people to practice sovereignty. So you think about the African diaspora, you think about the fact that the, Middle Passage, the Ma'afa, was an interruption and denigration of the humanity of people of African descent.
Right.
We see that in order for Black people to be free, we have to organize on the basis of our solidarity as people of African descent.
Right.
To be able to practice sovereignty and self-determination. We, so from our perspective, Black people are, to the extent that Black people have made progress, it's not been petitioning white people to recognize their humanity. It's been us being able to organize in sovereign, self-determined political action. on the basis of our work.
One of the things that I like about hearing that is because when the founding fathers came to America, they didn't ask for their liberty.
That's right.
on their freedom. They took it.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it sort of amusing often that people want others who are seeking their own freedom to do it under the tutelage or base time of someone else. Wait, we can't take. So I think it's important for all people.
That's right.
Whether you're Black, Latino, Native, white, whoever you are, who is missing that freedom, to boldly go out there and say, oh no, I am not asking you for this. This is mine.
Yeah, and one aspect of that, so our organization is not a nonprofit, we're an LLC. And that's really intentional for two reasons. One, we just don't have the limitations that a C3 has in terms of engaging in the political arena. And then secondly, in terms of like our business model, we only exist because the black folks primarily in Baltimore and the state of Maryland support the work we do. We're able to deliver things that people can see the material impacts of it on their lives. And so in exchange, we get the support from the community. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that the extent that we've been able to wield power, like here in Baltimore and the state of Maryland, is based off of our ability for our community to serve as that wedge of power, right? We don't rely on the benevolence of other folks to be the basis of our ability to do our political work. And we're, super proud of that.
And that is something to be proud of, because as it turns out, you can only be free if you create your own freedom.
That's right.
And that is, I'll put it bluntly, one of the reasons I'm into independent media is that it gives me I have nobody saying you can't do this or you can't express truth this way. And I just love that about what you do. So tell us a little bit about, first of all, how can people get in touch with you?
So lbsbaltimore.com is our website, LBS Baltimore on all the relevant social media. You can get added to our email list. One of the things that we do when we do our legislative or political advocacy work, put out action alerts, getting people to contact their legislator, whatever, public official is needed to put pressure on folks. So we also just send out information about, the work that we do. One of the things that we're working on currently is reparations for the war on drugs. So we were able successfully to pass a statute through the state of Maryland's legislature that establishes the Community Repair and Reinvestment Fund. So 35% of the tax proceeds from recreational cannabis is going to go into a fund that's coming back to the communities impacted by the war on drugs.
Right.
And we're currently in the process of doing the implementation, building the infrastructure that will distribute those resources to make sure they actually get to the community and not, the big box corporate white nonprofits that usually soak up all the money when those resources come down.
Music to my ears. Let me tell you something. It's amazing, right? I don't think I know of any specific black run corporation or any of these things who make the drugs that pollute the community, who grow the drug en masse that pollute the community. So it actually turns out that those who control our economy have always been the ones creating the destruction within the community, and then to solve the problem, the violence problem, profit from incarceration, private prisons, and all these other issues. So the community, the black community, the Latino community, the native community have all been used as cogs to profit a select few. And it's not even the white community in general that's profiting from it, but it's just a whole bunch of capitalists who profit. And I am very happy in these spaces to see people like yourself that are out there making people aware of this and doing something about it. So I'm very excited. And I'm sorry, I forgot the name of your group again.
Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle, LBS.
LBS, Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle. I'm excited that young people like you guys have taken the bull by the horns and said, no more.
That's right. Appreciate that.
Give me a closing statement, my friend.
I think for us, as I mentioned before, our power comes from the community. We're super proud of it. We're going to continue to build. We're 15 years in next year. It's a slow build, but it's something that we're going to continue to do.
Now, we got to close out, but on the bridge, how did the bridge affect different parts of the community, and how are the resolutions to that bridge? Are they being done equitably in Baltimore? I mean, you have a very young, vibrant mayor. Is he making sure that, as opposed to the past, that things are being done equitably in Baltimore?
I mean, it's my understanding that there is a desire to make sure that there's equitable distribution of resources in terms of those that are going to do the work. It's not my area of expertise, so it's one of those things that I would encourage people to reach out to advocacy. Right. Particularly, there's Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition, which is a local organization. I imagine those folks will probably know more about that than I would.
Well, look, Mr. Love, it's been my pleasure to have you on Politics Done Right, and thank you for what you're doing.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. Those were the 4 videos that I wanted to get out from Netroots Nation. I see you had a robust conversation going on. I think we still have my good friend still a troglodyte. He just doesn't get it. But you know, what can I say? Breach, I am glad that you're in there. If not teaching my brother Lee Grant, that you're teaching the rest of the world the reality, some truths. Because again, uh, being willfully ignorant is an issue. This is not a matter of opinion. These things with trans and gays and all these different gender affirmations, these are actual. I mean, even if you well look, these are actual serious issues, and to simply have a mind that doesn't want to explore, a mind that won't understand that look, you're simply wrong. Oh, we know what genders. There are only 2 genders. Oh, really now? Again, we ought to learn how to learn. Very important. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed those. Stein, Birkin Greek asked, does Kamala support student loan forgiveness and reparations? I am not sure, but I hope she doesn't go into detail on those 2 issues. I don't want her to pick up any issue right. Look, there are two options in this election: Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, right? And the truth of the matter is, what I want to do, my position is going to be as follows when it comes to the election. Donald Trump cannot be elected. Donald Trump must not be elected. Is there a choice other than Kamala at this point in time? No. So I don't want her to get into the woods with any subject that will give him the opportunity to go ahead and create a false issue when there's not enough time to really open up that issue so that you can educate Americans, because Americans, as it is right now, are not very well educated on reparations, are not very well educated on the lost capital that was stolen from people. I mean, they simply don't understand these these tenets, these topics. They don't. So I don't want to get into the weeds with that right now. Now, when we get the power base, we can start forcing these politicians to do what we want them to do after they've been empowered. Uh, Again, like I said, if I had the option to throw a Bernie Sanders or to throw one of these progressive folks in that mix now and elect them, I would. That choice is not there. The only logical choice right now is one of two, and you choose which one you want. This is not about principles right now. This is about reality. My principles never change. I use my pragmatism to get what I can and then do the necessary work. Do the necessary work to get involved. Oh my God. Thank you so kindly. La Preciosa Peggy Lopez. She says, keep up the great programming. Thank you for that super chat, Peggy. I can't do any of this without the great support I get from my PDR posse, the great support I get from my patrons, the great support I get from my subscribers to my newsletter. You all make it possible. I'm still trying to make, I'm still negative cash flow, but folks, you all make y'all make it worth it every time because you are all working. We are not we're not a posse filled with millionaires. We probably have just 2 or 3 millionaires in our room here, in the overall chat. But we are a room of working people, people on social security, people that that work very hard for their money. So every penny that I get from all of you to support this endeavor, I want you to know it deep in my heart. I am, in fact, appreciative because you make it possible for me to continue to do this. It's funny. Linda had to go back to work to get health insurance for the family because of this endeavor. So this is a community effort for all of us to do what we're doing. It's hard work. So thank you, Peggy. I just want you to know that that is very much appreciated for everyone that is a part of the team. And again, a lot of you in here are part of the team. As far I'm talking support team. And look, I know some people can't. That's understandable. And I still want everybody here. That's what it's all about. But anyway, we're coming to the end of the program and it's time for me to do my ask. So therefore, I'd like to ask you so kindly, those of you, there are several ways to become to help us out here to keep this stuff going, right? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to first put the support link in there, and that support link is the catch-all. You can find the different ways that you can support the program all at this one link here, politicsdoneright.com/support. However, I am trying to build our newsletter group, subscriptions, paid subscriptions. I need about 1,000 plus subscribers. I only have about 10% of that so far. So we have ways to go. So if you have the wherewithal to do so, please consider going to my link, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, which I just placed in there, and become a paid subscriber. Subscription to the newsletter is free. I try to make everything available to everybody somehow, some way. But if you become a paid subscriber, you get a chance to read all of my books. First of all, you get my newsletter, and any locked up part of the newsletter you can read. But you also get a chance to read all of my books, current books, which I have 5 that are already published. But you also, my promise to you is all my subsequent books will be added as well for you to read online. And how does that look? It looks like the following. If you take a look, you can see right now the books that are there. As I see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relative Friends and Neighbors. and Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. All my books, you get access to it by becoming a paid subscriber. And how do you become a paid subscriber? politicsandright.com/newsletter. Anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your weekend. I'm going to be doing what I need to do, which is we're going to be cutting videos. This weekend, we also have I'm going to a Houston Peace and Justice Center mixer where we're trying to bring other organizations together in the progressive freedom movement, peace and justice movement. So that's my weekend taken for that. And then, of course, with Roberto Luis, the Panamanian, we are having a Panamanian thing in the park all the way on the west side of Houston that I have to attend as well. So it's going to be a busy weekend. Plus, I have to work and continue doing what we do here. Thank you so kindly. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.